Good morning, everyone. Bon matin à tous. Thank you for joining us. Merci d'être parmi nous aujourd'hui. My name is Kina Leclerc and I will be your moderator. Je m'appelle Kina Leclerc et je serai l'animatrice de ce point de presse. Before we begin, a quick reminder to place yourself on mute until I invite you to speak or to ask your question. Available for questions from the media, we have disponible pour répondre aux questions des médias, nous accueillons in council chambers, Mayor, le maire, Jim Watson, Steve Kanalakos, City Manager, Directeur Municipal. Phoning in today, we have Councillor Keith Egli, Chair, Ottawa Board of Health, Conseiller municipal Keith Egli, Président du Conseil de santé d'Ottawa, Dr. Vera Etches, Medical Officer of Health, Médecin-chef en santé publique, and David White, City Solicitor, Chef du contentieux. I will now invite each agency to ask their question. You may ask one question with one follow-up. Par ordre alphabétique, j'invite maintenant chaque organisme à poser une question et une question de suivi. If for some reason we lose you during the call, please try phoning in again or contact Media Relations to submit your questions. We will now start with Joanne Chianello at CBC Ottawa. Joanne, are you on the line? Okay, we will go to Alex Gouge at City News.
Hello, I just have one quick question for today, and it's for Dr. Etches. Dr. Etches, I saw your tweet that over 27,700 appointments have been booked for the 5 to 11 age group. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's very encouraging. This was the first day the system was open. People were ready. They made the time to go in and book appointments, and they wanted it done as soon as possible. So this means that about a third of people, children, will have the protection against transmission of COVID that even the first dose provides before the holidays. And if we can learn from other age groups, we know this will only grow. So the other age groups have got up to, for example, 12 to 17-year-olds, 96% coverage. That took the bulk of people signed up in the first month, and then it's ongoing work to add in and get up to those higher levels of coverage. I know some parents we heard beforehand wanted to wait and see more about this vaccine being used on a larger scale. Certainly in the studies and what's been reported so far by the National Advisory Committee, there have been no serious events after this dose. This smaller dose has been given to 5 to 11-year-olds. And we're going to learn more. 3 million doses now, I'm hearing, have been given in the United States. So, in terms of waiting to get more information about doses given, 3 million in the US is going to give us even more information, very shortly. So I think that parents should continue to know that we recommend the vaccine. CHIO recommends the vaccine. This is safe and effective, and it is still important to limit COVID transmission in our community. This is the best tool we have, and it's safe, and it will make a difference to children who are immunized, and more comfort participating in extracurricular activities, visiting their grandparents. So I do hope that people will continue to go and find those appointments that are available for them on the provincial booking system.
Alex, if I could just offer a quick comment. You can well imagine the logistics for getting these new centers open for children ages 5 to 12 is pretty remarkable. And I want to thank Dr. Etches and our vaccination team, because they've put in long hours to get us to the point where we can start vaccinating young people this Friday. So to all of those paramedics, the nurses, the public health officials, Dr. Etches, Keith, our chair of Ottawa Public Health, as well as the parents who are going to in some instances perhaps have a little bit of a challenge getting their kids to go to the vaccination site, but we know that it's painless, and our kids are tough and resilient and brave, and we wish them and their parents and our staff working at these centers the very best as we continue to fight this battle against COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have Joanne Chianello on the line now. Joanne?
Yeah, thanks very much. Sorry, there's a bit of a Zoom snafu there. I actually have a question for the mayor. Mayor Watson, as I'm sure you know, the police board unanimously passed a motion to lower the additional money for the police instead of it being 3% down to 2% increase. That motion has to come to council. Do you support this motion? What are your thoughts?
Thanks, Joanne, for the question. Well, the motion came out relatively late last night, so I've just briefly read it. One of my concerns, and I think the chief brought this up, is the Police Services Board and the police do not have a great track record of finding the efficiencies that they promote in their budget or in this motion. And as you know, any cost overrun, any deficit is the burden of Ottawa taxpayers through the City of Ottawa budget process. So I'll take the next couple of days to thoroughly analyze the motion. I know another motion that the chair brought forward was withdrawn because there didn't seem to be much consultation or support on it. But I certainly have been very clear that I do not support any movement to defund the police that would affect frontline services or start to see layoffs of police officers. I think with a growing city and the geography that we have, the public certainly are telling me, not the ones that go out and block roads or have rallies at City Hall, the public that I talk to, and I go out more and more to a lot more events, they want to see a greater police presence in their neighborhood, particularly for things like speed enforcement. It's the #1 complaint my colleagues on council give me, and it's no good to put 30-kilometer or 40-kilometer street signs if you don't have the enforcement by the police. So we'll look at the proposal, but I'm going to have a lot of questions to Chief Slowly. I know he is somewhat uncomfortable with some of the motions that were being discussed last night, and I want to hear his professional opinion on what we can do to ensure that any decisions by the police board, one, are backed up with a realistic chance of being implemented, i.e. it's not a pie in the sky idea to find efficiencies and then come back at the end of the year and say we didn't find those efficiencies. And that will be my guiding light on those deliberations. Thank you.
And can I get you to repeat that in French, please, Mayor?
Oui, certainement. J'ai lu hier soir.
Yes, last night I read the resolution of the police board. I have some difficulties with parts of this motion. The chief slowly will have to find that those economies, and the police service and the commission don't really have a good track record in finding efficiencies for the residents. So I have many questions for the police and for the chief of police. I certainly don't support reductions in the police department that could affect the frontline services. I think people want more police presence in the various wards, especially with speeding. And it's not a good idea to just put up signs for 30K an hour or 40 if you don't have the force presence to ensure control.
Thank you. And for my second question, I wanted to ask about the motion regarding Councillor Curry. I know that that's going to be discussed next time, but the motion calls for, I believe, my apologies if I didn't have this right, it went quickly, but that the Councillor Curry would also be on FEDCO because Councillor Sudds was on FEDCO. Is that true? Is that the case, or did I mishear? And if that is the case, why should a new councillor who was selected, not even elected, be on FEDCO, which is a pretty powerful committee? Thanks, Mayor.
Yeah, you're correct on that. We did the same thing, if you recall, Joanne, with Catherine Kitts. We basically took the responsibilities of Stephen Blais and gave those to Catherine Kitts, and we're following that same precedent with Councillor Curry. You recall there's a number of rookie councillors on FEDCO. I'm not sure if it's quite half, but certainly a large number of new members of FEDCO. Councillor Curry has a great background in governance and chairing meetings as the former chair of the school board. So I have full confidence that she would be a a very positive contributor to the committee system. I was sorry that we weren't able to get her on committees today, but we'll bring that forward at the next council meeting, as you pointed out, and we'll have a fulsome debate. And at the end of the day, it's the members of council that will vote on committee assignments for Councillor Curry. But as I said, I very much support taking the responsibilities that former Councillor Suds had and giving them to Councillor Curry, with the exception of the third deputy mayor spot, because as you know, in the last year and a half, there are very few opportunities for myself or the other deputy mayors to do events. And at this point, as long as COVID brings restrictions, we probably won't have many deputy mayor events. And hopefully that changes in the new year as more people get vaccinated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now be going to Leah Larocque at CTV Ottawa.
Good morning. My question is for the mayor or perhaps Mr. Kanalakis. It's just about the LRT. So last night there was another delay on it. There was a stop train, I believe, between Tremblay and Rideau. Last week there was mention that there was going to be repairs done in the on the track in the tunnel, because this is the second time a train has stopped now that the LRT in the tunnel in about a week. So I'm just wondering, what was the reason for the stalled train, and are you concerned that this is a bigger problem given that the LRT has been back in service for just over a week now?
I'll ask Steve Kanalakis to give you more specifics, Leah. Bottom line is that we had 3 incidents in the last 3 weeks. There are literally hundreds of trips every single day. And in all 3 cases, I believe, I stand to be corrected, but all 3 cases, the train system continued to operate and run, whether there was diversion around one train or whatever, but the system continued to run. And we've had a much better track record in terms of maintenance and preventative maintenance issues in the last 3 weeks than we did, obviously, prior to the shutdown. So we're making progress. It's slow and steady. I was on the train for about an hour and a half or so, going back and forth on Monday. I'm going back out this afternoon to ride the rail from end to end. And I certainly received a lot of positive feedback. People were very happy to see the end of R1 buses and very happy to see the train back. And we're starting to see slowly but surely more people, passengers, coming on the train than we did a little while ago. And secondly, as you know, we're gearing up to having 11 trains available by the end of this month, which is coming up quickly. And I have every confidence that we will meet that 11 train cap. And of course, December, thanks to a motion by my colleague, Councillor Hubley, there'll be no charge service for buses, paratranspo, and LRT for the entire month of December, in an effort for us to say we're sorry for the unsatisfactory level of service for our passengers. And this is a small way of giving back to those individuals who have been inconvenienced and frustrated beyond belief. And that will save the average adult pass holder about $122. And then, thanks to Councillor Hubley's intervention at the Transit Commission last week, we will have a minimum of 2 months, January and February, as fare freeze from the proposed increase, because we've indicated until we have the 15 trains up and running consecutively without any major disruption for 1 month, we will continue to freeze those fares. So we have to freeze them obviously in January because we're not at the 15 train level. And then if we don't have a good January, February becomes a fare freeze as well. So I think what we're trying to do is a combination of reward and thank our passengers who have been inconvenienced, as I said, beyond belief, and at the same time continue to keep pressure on RTG and RTM to make sure that every train that goes out is in good working order. And as I said, the 3 incidents, I believe, and Mr. Kanalakis can comment further, did allow us to continue the train service from end to end. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Leah. Yeah, the train last night, it was basically a breaker went on a voltage breaker went, and the train got delayed but made it into the station, and then a technician arrived and reset the breaker. So it's not unlike an electrical panel in your home. The other trains were minor issues also, relatively speaking, in terms of what the cause was. And, when you look at the trains, we run from, most days 6 in the morning till 11, 12 o'clock every night. So we're running 16, 17 hours a day. We've had very few incidents. We're running at about 99% reliability with respect to the trips served the passengers can use throughout that period. So as I've said before, and TRA said it loud and clear, you have to expect that there's going to be the occasional issue with the train where it stops or it has to be reset or there's a door jam. These things happen in every train system in the world, and I'm not excusing the fact that people were inconvenienced those particular times, and that we're always striving to do better. But the train system the last 3 weeks since we've launched and we put in the new maintenance regime with TRA and Alstom and RTM is paying dividends where we're able to keep the trains running. We've not stopped the system. We've not had to implement R1 service to support the system because the system's been shut down over the last 3 weeks. We're up to 9 trains this week, and we'll be up to 11 before the end of the month. We're on schedule to do that. Trains are running every 6 minutes right now in terms of frequency. We'll be down to 5 minutes when the 11 trains are up. So the service will be very satisfactory for the loads that we have right now. And I realize people are focusing on, when a train is stopped or when there's an issue. That's not unusual. They've been quick fixes. And the good news is we have enough spares available to put trains back in service immediately and keep the lines running with minimal disruption to passenger times.
Perfect. Thank you. My second question is again for Mr. Mayor. You mentioned how important it is to get federal workers back downtown, for businesses to get back on the buses. I know you've gotten this question a bit, but I'll just re-ask it again. Is there any guidance that you're giving for municipal workers, City of Ottawa workers, to get them back for in-person back in the office?
Yeah, I'll ask Steve for some specifics. I gave some numbers to your colleague Colton the other day with respect to the number of people who actually are continuing to work. The vast majority of our employees have continued to work, some in offices, most of them outside in the field. You think of police, fire, paramedics, street sweeping, snow plowing, the water works department, and the like, the libraries. So the vast majority of our people are not working from home. We do have a plan to gradually bring back people. I know, for instance, I'm starting to see more and more people here in the main City Hall building and over at Constellation. So Steve can give a little bit more indication. As you know, we had a number of employees, I think close to 600, that have been put on their vacation time and eventually unpaid leave because they have not proven that they've been double vaccinated. And that is a tough medicine, but it's the right thing to do, in my opinion. Steve?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, hi again, Leah. Interestingly, people kind of compare us to, people think because we're government, municipal government, that everybody works in an office. In fact, 75% of our employees since March 13th lockdown in 2020 have continued coming to work every day and filling their shifts. None of those services stopped. The only people that were affected that went into lockdown and worked from home were the people in our 3 main administrative buildings, City Hall, Constellation over in the Center Point, and Ben Franklin. Those were the 3 main buildings. We have just over 4,000 employees that work out of all those buildings, and of those, almost 48% are either back in some form 1 to 5 days a week, or are on their way back starting in the new year. And so, and we'll be growing that as we proceed into the new year, and as public health restrictions in the province starts rolling back restrictions, because we are still being conscious of that we're still under public health restrictions, and there are distancing requirements in our administrative buildings and masking, etc. So we're working with our employees individually. We are moving to a hybrid workforce. There's no doubt about that. Not all employees will be back 5 days a week, but when you look at the overall percentage of employees, we have over 17,000 people that work for the City of Ottawa 3/4 of them come to work every day, contribute to the economy, are having their lunch in local restaurants, picking up takeout, are out on the streets and are out doing their job, inspecting buildings, doing all the things the mayor talked about. And so, we're moving, I think, in a really good pace and a safe pace to get our employees back in some form in our administrative buildings.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now be going to Craig Lord at Global Ottawa.
Thank you. A couple questions for Dr. Etches, I believe. The 27,000 appointments that were booked up to today, I'm just curious, when did those go up until? Like how is that booked through the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Like when can we expect those appointments to have passed, basically?
Yes, so I don't have the latest information, but we can follow up with you in terms of when is the next available appointment. So if all of those were booked, I think having booked my 2 sons as well personally, I had to wait until December 2nd before I started to see quite a bit of availability coming through. I've heard some people are booking around December 6th. So I do think that the bulk of the 27,000 are probably in the next 2 weeks, which again is excellent. It means that they'll have that protection sooner rather than later. However, we have 60,000 appointments that we put up all before December 23rd. So that does mean there are many appointments available still before December 23rd. That is the case. People don't have to wait. If they go in today, they'll be able to find a spot.
Thank you. And I'm seeing on OPH's dashboard, when it comes to outbreaks, there are a number of hospital wards, shelters, and a few communal living settings that are experiencing rather large outbreaks relative to even some of the schools. Did the size of those outbreaks, the growing frequency, does that concern you at all? And are there any supports being given right now to help the hospitals or other settings seeing large outbreaks?
So yes, I think there are 7 hospital outbreaks open right now. A couple of them are larger. They've been going on for longer, so the number of people testing positive over time has continued to grow. Those are the civic in older parts of the buildings. So we are working with the hospital to continue to look at how they contain the COVID transmission. Some of these people testing positive are being uncovered as they test broadly, people who've been potentially exposed, and they're finding asymptomatic infections, people who they aren't in the hospital due to the illness. They're not suffering from COVID, but that's being detected. So yes, it's an ongoing collaboration with the hospital. When it comes to the shelter, there are additional measures that have been reinforced in terms of the use of personal protective equipment by staff, adding in nursing support, looking at how we're messaging and trying to limit the movement between shelters. So this is a population where we continue to offer immunization as well to try to increase the protection that way. What I am watching carefully is the school outbreaks have increased a little bit in number. We were holding fairly steady at 9 school outbreaks in elementary schools, and now we're up closer to 18 elementary schools with outbreaks. So that does seem like a significant increase, though the average number of people in the schools is still lower. One thing we're seeing is actually, as usual, people are typically encountering COVID in the home. It's coming from a home environment, being introduced into the schools. Where there are many siblings in a home, perhaps, then that transmissions occurred in the home to the siblings. It's then affecting multiple cohorts in a school when those siblings go into different classrooms. So would encourage everyone, if your child has symptoms, do get a test to make sure it's not COVID. Stay home until we know that isn't COVID. And also the siblings, if they're not vaccinated, they should be staying home until we know it's not COVID. I think this shows you, this is the population most unimmunized, and it's where we're seeing the greatest number of outbreaks. So if we do, again, see the value of this 5 to 11-year-old group being immunized, I think that's going to be the key here, and I would encourage people to book those appointments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Craig. Nous allons maintenant passer à Julien Paquette à Le Droit.
We give the floor now to Julien Paquette from Le
Bonjour,
Droit.
la question
Hello.
pour Monsieur le maire, je crois,
The question is
c'est
for the Mayor
concernant
Watson.
le changement de zonage sur
You talked about the
la
zoning
promenade Sir John A.
amendments
Macdonald. Je
on
crois comprendre
Sir
que
John A. Macdonald.
cette situation-là, on
I
a repoussé
understand
la décision là-dessus.
that you deferred the decision on that
C'est
topic.
pour la deuxième
today.
fois, en fait. Est-ce qu'il y a une
It's been
raison
the second time
particulière?
that it's
Est-ce qu'il y a
deferred.
par exemple, des
Is it a
discussions avec la
specific reason?
CCN pour
Is it because you
revoir
have
le
to talk
projet?
to the NCC about that project? Thank you so much for your question. Negotiations are underway with NCC. It's probably a question that will be best answered by Mr. Tim Turney. I know that negotiations are underway, and it takes a little longer. I hope that we will be able to make a decision in a few weeks or in the next months. But right now, the discussion is ongoing between the councillor of that ward, the personnel, and the NCC.
Parfait.
Thank you.
Ma deuxième question, toujours pour vous, Monsieur Watson. La semaine
Follow-up
dernière, vous
question
me
for Mayor
disiez que
Watson.
vous attendiez toujours
You
d'avoir
said
une
that you
communication
were
officielle du bureau de la
waiting to have
ministre
an
des Transports
official
concernant l'enquête publique
letter about the
sur le train
national
léger. Est-ce que vous
inquiry.
avez depuis eu des discussions avec,
Sorry,
avec
about
Mme
the
Mulroney?
inquiry
Comment ça s'est
about the
passé,
light
si c'est le cas?
train. What's going on with that right now? I haven't received a specific response yet. I haven't received a communication yet from the minister responsible for that topic from Queen's Park. So we're awaiting more information about the structure of the inquiry, the composition, and the objective of the inquiry. We will be working with them on this inquiry. City personnel will provide all the needed documents and all the needed information about the light train
Merci.
system. Thank you.
Merci, Julien. We'll now be going to John Willing at the Ottawa Citizens.
Hi, Kina. Thank you. Mayor Watson, I think we were struck this week by seeing all the MPs up in the House of Commons. And so we're wondering, when is City Council going to come back to council chambers for in-person meetings?
Well, I know we miss you, John, as you miss us in person. And my understanding is the clerk will be consulting with Ottawa Public Health. My hope is that we're able to come back in some form, ideally in person in January, provided we have the necessary pre-clearance from Public Health and from our city clerk. But I see no reason why we couldn't come back at that point. I think there may be some limits in terms of how many members of the public can come in. We certainly would want to have the media back in person here in the council chamber. And as you can see, we have put up some protection with these plexiglass additions, and we'd obviously be required to continue wearing our masks unless we're speaking or having a glass of water. But my hope is, the latest briefing I received was that the clerk is looking at us coming back sometime in January, which is a month or so away. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. And for Mr. Kanellakis, you mentioned that it looks like it's inevitable that the municipal public service will move to a hybrid workforce. What does a hybrid workforce look like for the municipality?
Well, the hybrid workforce mostly affects the people that are in, the office environment. But effectively, John, what it means is that we're going to be flexible with our employees to try and determine how many days a week they need to come back and create spaces in our buildings where people can basically plug in from a hoteling perspective. And some will have permanent workstations. We're identifying which workers are critical to come back and have to be in the office and which ones will have more flexibility in terms of working from home or coming into the office. So hybrid means that you'll be required to come into the office when your boss needs you to come in for an event, a brainstorming session, a collaboration, whatever it is, team meetings, and that you will also be permitted to work at home when required. But it won't mean that people will be permanently able to stay at home and never have to come into our municipal buildings or come into work. I certainly don't support that. There'll be this permanency of, you never have to show up, or you can work in, you can go down to Jamaica and work out of Jamaica and never have to come back to the office. I don't think that's the way to run a city. And so there will be people, everybody that works from home or has that flexibility will always be required, and when required, to have to come into the office and work from the office. And of course, that will grow and expand as the public health measures start being rolled back. And I don't expect we'll have 100% of our people back. So hybrid for me is flexibility for the employees, understanding that they might come in a day, they might come in 2 days, but they might not be in 5 days, depending on what role they have.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, John. We will now be going to Elizabeth Payne at the Ottawa Sun.
Hi, thank you. A question for Dr. Etches, please. It's to do with the start of the rollout of children's vaccines. Does that start Friday? And can you tell us? Is it at just one site with just what numbers happen Friday and whereabouts?
Yes, so parents will have the option to go to a pharmacy. They'll be starting to offer the vaccine to 5 to 11-year-olds, as they are right now for other age groups. And those pharmacies that are participating for this age group, we're aiming to have them listed on our website so that people can go to one place and find out which pharmacies that would be something to check if the people want that option. The appointments that people were booking start with 3 clinics this Friday for 5 to 11-year-olds, and then they go to 7 clinics on the Saturday. So smaller number on the Friday because we had already booked in people for booster doses. And so starting with the 3 sites, they're listed on our website. They're in the booking system, although, and then the 7 sites will continue. Those are the 7 sites that will be stable and for the coming weeks. Also, family physicians, some of them are immunizing with us in our clinics, helping us out with the larger clinics, helping us with mobile clinics, community clinics, but some are also offering the vaccine in their office. And my understanding is those family physicians will be working to reach out to their patients to be able to confirm with their patients directly where and when they could access vaccine. So those are a number of options. The other is we know there are neighborhoods where the larger clinics, the community clinics, haven't been the easiest to access, and so those 10 vaccination hubs are open, and we'll take people who need to walk in close to home to overcome the transportation barriers. That also will be an option on the Friday.
Okay, thank you. And for a follow-up, it is related to hospital outbreaks. This week, Peter Uni from the Science Table, and I believe the Science Table published something to do with airborne transmission. You talked about working with the hospital in these outbreaks, particularly in the older part of the Civic, which is very old. Is this an issue with airborne transmission and not wearing proper masking in terms of infection control? Should that change in your view? Is it just the structure of the building that is an issue, or do you know?
I think it's fair to say in an outbreak that we have to look at everything that could put pressure on transmission or limit transmission. So we look at everything. To begin with, are people being screened for COVID? Are they being tested if they have symptoms, both staff and patients? Are people immunized? That's established. We're looking at booster doses for all the healthcare workers to increase that protection. Are people wearing the personal protective equipment appropriately? So are they keeping the masks on? Are they using eye protection and keeping their hands washed? All of these things, we sometimes need to reinforce. Are patients being moved a lot, so that if someone did have an infection, they were moved to another room and they could bring the infection with them? Are we looking at how patients are cohorted and therefore exposing as few people as possible? We also look at the ventilation because while mostly COVID's transmitted by the larger droplets that are captured in a mask, that there can be smaller aerosols that we know in hospital settings they have a higher standard of ventilation that is needed to eliminate transmission or address that risk. So these are all of the kinds of things that we continue to review.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Nous allons maintenant passer à Frédéric Pépin à Radio-Canada.
Frédéric Pépin from Radio-Canada. Thank you so much. The first question is for Mayor Watson. It's about the anti-racism secretariat. We're talking about not having enough representation within the city. It's about the elected members, but also the members of the committee among the employees. According to you, what kind of action can the city take to increase the diversity representation of these communities within Ottawa? Can you also answer in French afterwards? In English, sorry. That's one of the reasons why the City of Ottawa created a secretariat responsible to fight against racism within the city. That's also the reason why we have an open position. So Councillor King is the person responsible for the relations with the multicultural communities. He's also responsible for the strategy. So the Secretariat is there to fight against racism within the city. At the same time, as you know, we have more visible minority members within the City of Ottawa. The General Director of OC Transpo is a visible minority member. It's also the same thing for the Chief of Police and Chief of Transport. So Chief of Transport of Ottawa. So these are very good examples. So they are responsible for large services within the City of Ottawa. It's very important to keep on improving the situation. For the councillors, the decisions are in the hands of our electors. So we have Russell Kings, which is a member of the Black community. We also have a member from Lebanon that is from the Lebanese community. But like I said, it depends on the voter. So at each election, the choice is in the hands of the voters.
Well, we obviously have a lot of work to do to better reflect the face of Ottawa, but I think we have in this term of council made some very good progress. For the first time ever, the head of OC Transpo is a visible minority. The same with our chief of police. The same with an assistant treasurer. as well as the Chief of Transportation Planning, all visible minorities. We established the Anti-Racism Secretariat that's up and running, that's been consulting with over 600 individuals in the last couple of months, notwithstanding COVID-19. And it's why we appointed Councillor King as the anti-racism liaison and the member responsible for multicultural relations in our city. But it really is a collective responsibility, not just on the shoulders of one individual, but I commend Ralston for the great work he's done in setting up the Secretariat. So with respect to members of council, we have obviously Ralston as a visible minority, along with 2 members of the Lebanese community that serve around the table. But at the end of the day, the power to change the face and composition of award seats or the mayor's race is really up to the people. It's up to people to put their name forward as candidates, and it's up to the public to vote for who they think would be the best candidate to serve their community or their ward or the city, as is the case with the mayor. Thank you. Merci.
Merci, M. Watson. Ma prochaine question, c'était pour la docteure Etches.
My question is for Dr. Etches. As you mentioned in English, we would like to have the same answer in French. You said that we're talking about a 27th appointments taken. This represents about 1/3 of your objective, isn't it? When you're talking about 27,000 appointments, what's the proportion of your objective amongst the group 5 to 11 years old? And where can we get vaccination for the kids? I'm very happy that 1/3 of that age group has already an appointment made. This will be done over the next few weeks. This will provide a good protections at home. And it does show the trusts. So right now, after vaccination, they will be more comfortable to go and visit the grandparents. We want to increase the number of protected individuals within the next weeks. So we will be offering new appointments soon in the system. So you will be able to find an appointment for your children. We saw that some parents want to wait a little bit until a higher number of children are vaccinated. In the studies, there were no serious events for the children. If we're looking at the United States, 3 million children were vaccinated. So the vaccine is safe for the children. So we have to provide enough information. And vaccination is now recommended for children aged between 5 to 11. Now, if you want to get vaccinated, we have different sites. We have the clinics, 3 clinics. We also have access to pharmacists. There's about 100 of pharmacies. You can find the list on the website. You might be able to find a pharmacy close by. We also have 10 community centers. Sometimes it's more difficult for population that do not have access to different means of transport. They can use these clinics. So some family doctors may be offering the service. They will do a follow-up for their own patients. They will be able to provide vaccination within their clinics. So we may have a special clinic at Chio's.
je sais pas le mot exactement en français, mais c'est pour les
People with reduced mobility, or when we have a family with many siblings, we will possibly have a mobile clinic. Thank you so much.
Merci beaucoup à tous. Thank you, everyone. This concludes our media avail. Ceci conclut notre point de presse. Have a great day. Bonne journée.